Lightroom, Lightroom Classic, and Adobe Camera Raw are all fantastic programs, but there is a few tools that are commonly misused or just tools that I would recommend you avoid at large if you're a landscape, wildlife, or maybe even a portrait photographer. In this video, we're talking about the 6 tools that I would not use because I see them all the time ruining people's photos. So I would recommend that you stay away from them. And let's not waste any time. Let's get right in there to talk about the 6 Lightroom tools that you should avoid using at all costs. All right, number 1 here is going to be the Luminance range masking. That's located here in the masking tools. If you go to create a new mask and hit Luminance range, because let's say you're thinking, okay, I just want to drop the brights in the image, something that you could really easily do in Photoshop with a luminosity mask. This should work similar, but I'll show you why it doesn't. So you sample one of those bright colors. Now you have this nice mask. Now, if I want to select only the very brightest pixels, I can bring that over just like that, and then I can increase or decrease the feather. Now, the problem is when I do this, then I go down, and if I bring the exposure down, you can see how it just kind of makes things gray, and it gives us this really hard edge. Even if I just drag the highlights or even the whites down, it gives us this ugly looking edge because of the selection. Now, what really needs to happen is this selection that you see here, we need to be able to feather that or soften it a little bit, or have something like in Photoshop, they have the density slider, which allows us to make these blacks a little bit less black so that everything can be affected at once, which helps you to avoid the lines, but you don't have that. So unfortunately, I would not recommend using Luminance range, and instead, what I would do is create something like, for this photo, I would probably use a linear or radial gradient. Click and drag down from the top, just like that. You can bring the exposure down a little bit. You can bring the highlights down, and I like to retain the whites as I bring both of those down, because that helps to make sure I still have a nice amount of pop up there in the sky. You can see before and after. So we bring back some of the detail there that was maybe not blown out, but close to blown out, but we retain the whites to help keep that punch in the image. That's the first tool that I would recommend not using, is that luminosity range masking. Let's go into tool number 2 here. That tool is going to be something that is new and something that I liked originally, but the more I've used it, the less that I have liked it. Now it's going to be here, again, develop tab, basic tab here, and it is going to be our adaptive color. Now, for people that don't know, adaptive color basically just creates like a preset on your image where it will automatically do a little bit of the editing, but unlike the auto button here, which will adjust the sliders, this doesn't adjust any sliders, so you still have full access to all the sliders. You know, this is a big improvement from things. These colors basically just tell Adobe how to read your photo. You know, Adobe Color, Adobe Landscape, Adobe Portrait, they're all very similar, and then you have this adaptive color that does a lot. And now, while it might look like it's doing a good job, there is oftentimes some things under the hood that you do not see that are going on, and I will show you exactly what I mean. So we're zooming way in here, and we're just going to increase the amount to 200, and then I'm just going to bring the exposure down so it matches. Now, what I want you to notice here, look at how the noise is not uniform in the photo. You know, you can see like there's a stripe here that doesn't have noise, and then there's like more noise here, more noise there. Now, this is not from my original photo. If I turn this off, you can see here we have the original photo. The noise is completely uniform. This is simply from using adaptive color, which is making some sort of local adjustment here to do something like this. I've seen it all the time where this happens, or you'll see halos around an object, whatever it may be. You know, you can start to see maybe over here we've got some haloing, and it just doesn't look great. So even though it is nice to have that as an automatic tool, if you are nitpicking, you like to look at some of the closer spots in your image, you do want to avoid using that adaptive color. Stick with one of the regular profiles. I typically use Adobe Color, but Adobe Landscape is great too. All right, next image here. Now this is something I've talked about a lot in the past, even on past YouTube videos, which you should definitely check out if you want more of the deep dive. But I would highly recommend not using this contrast slider. I'll show you exactly why on this image. So I like the way this is looking, but it definitely needs more contrast. I want the brights to really pop, and I want the darks to maybe not stand out quite as much. Now, if I bring the contrast slider up, I'm really liking what it's doing to the highlights, but I don't like how it's crushing the darks. Downside of the contrast slider is that it equally darkens the darks as it brightens the brights an equal amount. Don't use the contrast slider. Instead, use the tone curve. Again, I've got that YouTube video I released just, I believe, last week, if you're watching this as it comes out. And that is going to cover the tone curve in the entirety, but I will give you the quick and dirty right here. So all you need to do to create contrast with the tone curve is create a simple little S. Grab something on this bottom quarter here, and then grab another point on the top quarter and bring that point up. This point is going to adjust the highlights more than it's going to adjust the darks, whereas this point's going to adjust the darks more than it adjusts the highlights. So the reason why we're going to do that, you can see I just barely moved this down. The contrast slider, it was looking like that. I don't want it to be quite that dark in the darks, so we're going to go just like that. But these highlights, because it's light rays, we can really punch them like a lot. We can also grab the blacks point to bring back some detail in our darks, and then we can bring the darks down a little bit more, somewhere just like that, before and after. That contrast is looking so much better, so much more realistic, because we're not crushing these blacks. We are making them a little bit darker, but that blacks point there is kind of bringing back a little bit from there, and then we're really, really punching those highlights. And this is going to work in all different styles of photos, no matter what genre you shoot. That is what I would recommend doing. I want to take a very quick 20-second time out here to talk about my Lightroom course that just came out. If you're a Lightroom user, you should check out that course. It teaches you absolutely everything that you need to know about Lightroom from start to finish. I'm not going to spend too much time in this video overselling that course because it's not what it's about, but do go hit that link down below and check out my Lightroom course if you're interested in mastering Lightroom, learning everything that you need to know all in one package, all under one roof. I'll jump back in here to the next image. That is this photo here. Now, one tool I see quite a few people using that I don't like is this lens blur, which used to be in the beta. It's no longer in the beta anymore. Now in this photo, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, I shot this at f4, but maybe I would have liked everything to be a little bit softer behind the owl. It'll just help the owl to pop a little bit better. You go down to lens blur, you hit apply. That's going to apply some lens blur to the background. This automatically makes a depth mask on your image and then applies it. I'll just increase this all the way so you can see it work pretty quickly. Let's toggle that before and after. Now, you'll already see there's a few problems here. Number one, this looks weird. What the heck is going on there? I just would have rather that have been completely blurred out. So I'm not a huge fan of that. And you can adjust these settings and try and make it look a little bit better. But as you do that, you'll start to notice it will start to look pretty unrealistic there. And you don't have a lot of great control. You have a ton of different options here, but you don't really have great control over the photo. Instead of doing this, you can create this background blur, but you're gonna need to use Photoshop, unfortunately. And I'm not gonna show you exactly how to do it in this video, but I will link another video where I use the technique that I did in this photo, which let's make this big so you can see it a little bit better, which you can see I blurred behind our subject here, and then I blurred in front of the subject, and then I didn't blur right about where the subject's at to keep that realistic looking blur. You can see this is the before. And oops, let's actually turn this off so we can see this is before, this is after. So I just did a really slight blur. Again, I will link that video to Photoshop here and down below in the description where you can watch that video if you are interested in applying some lens blur, but avoid using this lens blur tool here. All right, next tool you shouldn't use is the vignette here in effects. And I love vignettes. I apply them on almost every single one of my photos, but not using this tool. I really, really highly recommend not using this. The biggest problem with creating a vignette this way is it equally darkens around the whole photo. Now that doesn't really make sense because why would we be darkening nearby where the sun is coming from, which is right over here? So don't do it that way. Instead, you're going to do it here in your masking tools. We're going to create a new mask and we are going to grab the radial gradient and make that nice and big. Just like that. You can hit Command minus or Control minus if you're on Mac or on PC, I mean. And then you can go in and adjust the feather. Typically for a vignette, I like something around 30, but we may change that. You're going to go up here, hit the 3 dots, and you are going to hit invert. And then you're just going to drag the exposure down. Now you're probably looking at this saying, we're doing the exact same thing you just told us not to do by darkening the sun. And if you're thinking that, you would be correct. So we're going to make this circle a little bit bigger. And we're going to drag this over. Let's drag this out. Let's increase the feather maybe. Yeah, we want to increase the feather. The exposure is getting a little too dark. Actually, maybe it's not. But just drag this around. So now you can see, if I show the overlay, our vignette is favoring the left side, the stronger vignette on the left, which makes total sense because we don't want to darken where the light is coming from. Additionally, you could just go in, subtract with a brush, and you could just, subtract this area. So now it's going to look something like this. That's your other option. You can do either one, but either way, I would do this to create your vignette rather than using that slider. It's going to give you much better and much more realistic looking results. And you can really fine tune the heck out of this. You know, if you were noticing that maybe there was too much color because it was adding too much saturation, you could go in and drop that, or, you know, protect the highlights, or whatever you want to do, you can do that here. So much more control, so much more customizability, if that's even a word. So that's why I would recommend using this tool here. All right, now last but not least, if you are going in here and spot healing your photo like this, that is good, but not great. I'm glad that you're spot healing the spots in your image. You know, I've got dust spot here. Just click and get rid of that. That's great. I'm happy that you're doing that because a lot of people aren't. So that is a good first step, but there is a better way to do that. So let's reset this. And, you know, if I spot healed this, I would probably spot heal that, and that would probably be pretty good to me. But I promise you I'm missing more than that. What you're going to use is this new distraction removal. It's kind of new, but you are going to use this, and you're going to scroll down to dust. Hit apply. Now you can let this work its magic and sit back and enjoy Lightroom doing absolutely everything for you. So you can see this picked up, if you see the dots on the screen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 circles that it picked up, that it determined are dust spots. You can also go in if you see that this didn't do a perfect job, which usually it does do a perfect job, but like down here where it's not in the sky, sometimes it has a harder time. You can go in and apply your own. It automatically gives you the tool that you need, just like that. But you can see that saved me a lot of time. You know, I wouldn't have seen some of these dust spots. I would literally recommend going through on every single one of your photos and just checking this box. I haven't seen it give unsatisfactory results yet. If there's no dust spots, it'll just say, hey, there's no dust spots. But there's no reason when you're editing not to go in here and check the box and then just let it see what it sees. And then, of course, always, if you are doubtful, you can zoom in, hit the eyeball, and you can say, yep, there's a dust spot there. And is there 2 here? Yep, there's 2 there. So just saves you a little bit of time. That's what I would highly recommend using. I don't really recommend using the remove tool to remove dust spots anymore because it just takes more time and it doesn't do as good of a job as the computer will do. So hopefully that helps. Those are the 6 tools that I wouldn't use, or I would use them differently here in Lightroom, Lightroom Classic, or even Adobe Camera Raw. Hope that helps you guys. If you have any questions about these tools, let me know down below in the comments. Otherwise, I will link all those videos that I mentioned earlier in this video. I'll link those down below, so make sure you hit those links and check out those videos. My name is Austin James Jackson. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Please make sure to leave a like and a subscribe to the channel. Let me help you get better at photography, and you're going to help me to grow my channel. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time. Adios.